What is your profession?
Hello guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel. I'm the Knight and I'll be showing you the Condition Burst Warrior build. Now, first of all, you need to know it took a lot of time to research for this build. It's very hard to find on the interweb. Like if you search for Guild Wars 2 Condition Mace Sword build, you might come across some builds, but they will be outdated. Most builds are from 2012 and 2013. But for an actual 2014 build with the April patch update, you won't come across it. I mean, it was really hard actually to do any research at all for this build. So what I had to do was asking one of the top players who is using this build a lot in Team Arena and ESL. I had to ask him personally what the build was. He gave some tips as well, but what you need to know about this build, like there is a lot of stuff you can just change for yourself. Like this build is so hybrid, you can just play around with it. Like you can just take out those stances if you want to and just go full Signet as well. It doesn't really matter. Like this build might be a build just for you if you search for a good basic, but you want to tweak the advanced settings. Like this might be an actual good build to use. So first of all, what we're gonna use is the mace and the sword with the longbow. I know it sounds weird, like if you're new to Condition Warrior, I know it sounds weird to use mace as a condition setup, but I will show you guys why later on. But yeah, we're gonna stick with the mace, sword and longbow right here, and we're gonna be using the Sigil of Geomancy and the Sigil of Battle on the melee weapons and the Sigil of Energy with the Sigil of Doom on the longbow. We're gonna be using the Rune of the Crate. You can also use Rune of the Strength if you prefer more hybrid in depth. Like if you want to keep your might up, Rune of Strength might be a good idea, because might not only gives power, it also gives condition damage. If you see right here, my power is 1700, like let's say, yeah, 1800, and I have 1100 condition damage. With the Signet right here, I gain 5 stacks of might. So if I use it, as you can see, it will go up as well. So both of them, as you can see, that's pretty insane. Like this is perfect hybrid build right there. So you not only focus on straight damage, but you will also focusing on the condition damage. That's exactly the same as the Axe Sword DPS Warrior build I've posted on my YouTube channel, which is still pretty used every day by the top teams as of now. So if you want more DPS, I would suggest going with the Axe Sword DPS Warrior. But if you want to play around, like if you want to fool others as a Farpoint Assaulter, this might be a good build as well. Do know that this build does take a bit of practice. You have to practice something, and I will show you what later on. So for the rune, I stick with the Rune of the Great because I'm using the Signet Mastery trait as well, so I got a lower cooldown on my Signet. And the last bonus right here gives, when you use your elite skill, you inflict bleeding, torment and poison for 8 seconds to nearby foes. So basically it's in condition AoE with 3 conditions, and as we all know, poison is very strong, not only for warriors. There are a lot of people thinking that the poison sigil is only for warriors, but that's totally wrong. Like if you're fighting, let's say, a guardian, like a guardian has a lot of healing as well, through the dodges, through the shouts, through the healing skill, through the to the mace symbol. So basically having poison up on the guardian as much as possible is pretty strong, because it will decrease the healing effectiveness by 33%. So don't underestimate poison. Poison is strong, really strong. Now for the amulet, we're gonna be using either the Carrion amulet, or you might stick with the Celestial amulet. One of the tips I had is like, it's totally situational, but it can also be more like a personal preference. So if you want to have a bit more DPS, then Carrion amulet might be the way to go, because it gives more power and more condition damage compared to a Celestial amulet. But if you want to stick to that hybrid idea, like in a total, I'm not saying like if you're using Carrion amulet you won't be a hybrid anymore. You still will be, but it will be a bit less. Like, you will be quite easier to kill somehow, because you lack a bit of toughness, you lack a bit of healing power, and healing power stacks with the healing signet, so your regeneration and the regen from your trait right here will go up with your healing power. So basically you can stick with the Carrion amulet, like if you're good enough at kiting, if you know the hot spots to avoid damage right there, you might be sticking with the Carrion amulet. The Celestial amulet is also pretty good, by the way. So as you can see, with the Celestial amulet your regen goes up here as well. So it's pretty good. I mean, healing power, there's a lot of people who don't know, but healing power stacks with the healing regeneration of your healing signet, and also with the trait. Every healing income is affected by healing power. That's why it's quite strong as well, and Celestial amulet makes it up. Like, you definitely will notice the difference. Now for the traits, we're going to be using 4 in strength, 4 in defense, and 6 in discipline. For the 4 in strength, we're going to be using the dual wielding trait, which is 5. For the extra straight damage increase by 5%, it does not increase your condition damage by 5%. It's only straight damage, like auto attack or whatever. Distracting strike, so this will be one of your main causes you will be using this build, and this is the main reason why we're using a mace and not a sword in our main hand. So you got two CCs right here. You got the pummel bash and you got the skull crack. So one is a stun and the other one is a daze, and both are able to interrupt. So as you can see, apply confusion when you interrupt the foe. 4 stacks of confusion for one time interrupting. I do know having only 2 CCs isn't that much. Like, if you're really up for it, you can change Endure the Pain for either kick, Bull's Charge, or Stomp. That's totally up to you, but you will sacrifice a bit of survivability because of that, but you will be able to give 4 extra stacks of confusion if you were successful at interrupting a foe. So you do need to know, don't try to interrupt when a target has stability, because it won't work. Like, if your target has stability, your build is quite useless for the amounts of seconds the enemy has stability. So that's the thing you need to train right there. So you need to time your attacks as well. Skull crack is a pretty long casting time, like half a second. That's pretty long compared to the pummel bash right here. It's like instant. It's totally instant skill. So it's very easy to interrupt with this skill. The skull crack is more like if you're fighting a short bow ranger or whatever class is using the auto attack a bit more, then skull crack is easier to use. But if you're fighting another warrior excuse me, another warrior or whatever, you need to train on timing the skull crack. So for the 4 in defense, we're going to be using the 5 and the 9, which is the missile deflection. You got 2 blocks on this build, which is the counter blow right here and the riposte. So as you can see, this is the animation of your sword block, and this is the animation of your mace block. So both of them will reflect all missiles whenever you're blocking. So it does not reflect any AoEs or something. It does block and reflect missiles like from the longbow, shortbow ranger, from the rifle or pistol engineer, or even from his elixir gun. Like all those missiles will reflect back. Also the shortbow thief, the bow warrior, I mean all those things will just reflect back. All missiles will reflect back, so that's pretty good. Cleansing Ire is always the must. It doesn't matter what build you're running on your warrior, each experienced warrior knows this is a must. Without this trait, you're probably gonna suffer from heavy condition pressure. Even with this trait, it's quite hard sometimes to survive when you're fighting one or two condition-based enemies in an enemy composition. So Cleansing Ire is a must. That's something you always need in your builds. Now you do have to know, Cleansing Ire will only proc when the burst skill was effective. Like if you're using the F1 from the longbow right here, which is the fire field, it would just be a fire field, and that means it was effective, so therefore it's gonna remove condition and you will lose some adrenaline upon using it. But for the skull crack, this is a melee burst skill right here. So basically you actually need to hit the target with the skill in order to proc this trait. If you're running away from your target because of condition pressure and you use this skill just like that without having an enemy in front of you or something, the condition will not be removed and you will not lose any adrenaline. And that's the same for the Earthshaker on the hammer, the burst on the greatsword, the burst on the sword, which is flurry. All your melee weapon bursts need to hit in order to proc. And with the rifle, the kill shot needs to hit as well. So yes, it needs to hit the target in order to be effective, except for the longbow. If you're running away and just place this fire field right here, it will cleanse conditions. Because the difference with this skill compared to others is that this skill actually is meant to be a fire field. Like that is the point, to have a fire field, to have a field. The others are no fields or whatever. Those are meant for causing CC or direct damage to the target, so that's their point. And if they cannot prove their point, therefore you won't be able to cleanse conditions. So if you place this fire field right here when you have conditions on you, those will be cleansed because it proved his point as a fire field. So that's something you really need to know. Now the 6 in discipline, we're going to be using the 6, the 8 and the 11 trait. The 6 is the Synapse Mastery, so it also helps more pressure with the crate rune right there. Also making sure you have the uptime of swiftness as much as possible. That's very important. Destruction of the Empower, the damage is increased by 3% for each boon, so basically in theory, if your target has 4 boons, your damage will be increased by 12%. That's basically it. Burst Mastery, burst skills deal more damage and cost less, so they will cost less adrenaline. Like if you don't really know what adrenaline is and stuff like that, I would suggest checking out how to play Hambo video. I discussed every single basic stuff you need to know about the warrior setup. I explained everything there. So yes, this is the build at this very moment. Like I said before, you do have to train with this build. It's not that easy to use this build because of the F1 on the mace. You really need to time your interrupt on the F1 because it's a very slow casting right there, so you need to be ready in order to interrupt. So you need to watch out. As you can see, it's very hard to time to time the interruptions. So you really need to train on them, and I would suggest training it on the monsters right here. I do almost died right now, but mostly like I don't even get at 60% HP. It's just because I was trying to focus on getting the interruptions. But as I said, you really need to train those. As you saw, it's really hard to hit those interruptions. Um, you will be able to daze and stun, but you must be able to interrupt. And what's interrupting? Interrupting is basically CCing or using one of those skill exactly when the enemy is using a skill. So that makes it quite hard. Like, even if you see your enemy using a skill, that skill cast timing might be so fast you won't even have time to press the button. So you really need to train it. You really need to train. I would suggest right here on Hearts of the Mists, the Forest of Arden. I would suggest training on those two bosses right here, so you get the hang of it a bit. And later on, you might go to the NPC classes right here. So yes, it's a pretty awesome build, but it needs a lot of practice, trust me. But it's totally worth it. Like, this is one of the builds as well who can kill like every other build out there, every other meta build, if you master it. Like, if you really master it, and if you really have at least basic knowledge about your enemies, you might be able to win most of the duels anyway, the most of the farpoint fights and stuff. This build is really great. It really offers that extra pressure you really want. And people won't expect you even using it. Like I said at the start of this clip, this build is really hard to find on the internet. You might find it, but the posts will be from 2012 and 2013. There is no single post from 2014 including this build with the April patch. So therefore, guys, this is a really exclusive build right here on my YouTube channel, so be sure to check it out if you're interested. Don't be afraid. Like, if you got any questions, just ask me on my in-game mail. My name is on the screen right there as well in the left bottom corner. So don't forget to like and subscribe for more videos. I will try to upload more videos today. I'm quite busy with the summer vacation. I've got a lot of real life stuff to do, but I will make more videos either today or it will be next Thursday. Okay guys, thanks for watching. Bye.